Caleb Mercer hadn't touched his wife's chair in 4 years. Tonight his hand reached for it anyway. His fingers stopped an inch from the wood. He pulled back like he'd been burned. Outside, the Wyoming wind screamed. December snow buried everything he'd tried to forget. Then 3 knocks shattered the silence. He opened the door. A woman collapsed at his feet. Behind her, 3 children stood trembling in the storm. "Please," she whispered. "My babies haven't eaten in 3 days." Caleb looked at those hungry faces. His heart cracked wide open. If you want to see how one knock changed 2 broken souls forever, subscribe and follow this story to the end. Comment your city below. Let me see how far our tale has traveled. Caleb Mercer set 1 plate on the oak table. 1 fork, 1 knife, 1 glass. The table could seat 8. He'd built it himself back when 8 seemed possible. Back when Hannah laughed in this kitchen, and little Ellie ran circles around his legs begging to help. He wiped the single plate with his sleeve, put it down, stared at it. 4 years, 4 winters eating alone. His hand moved toward the chair across from his. Hannah's chair. He caught himself pulled back, gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles went white. "Just me," he muttered. "The way it's gotta be." He carved the roasted pheasant with slow mechanical strokes. Too much food for one man. He always cooked too much. Couldn't seem to break the habit of feeding a family that no longer existed. On the mantel, 2 photographs lay face down. He'd turned them over the night after the funeral. Couldn't bear those smiling faces looking at him, asking him why he'd failed them. Caleb sat at the head of the table. His chair. His throne of solitude. The food steamed, but he didn't taste it. Hadn't tasted anything in years. Outside, the first real blizzard of December howled against the windows. Wyoming winter didn't forgive, didn't forget, just like him. He bowed his head. Lips moved in a prayer he no longer believed anyone heard. "Lord." 3 sharp knocks cut through the wind. Caleb's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Nobody came here. Not anymore. The town of Miller's Creek had learned to leave the scarred rancher alone. He'd made sure of that. The knocking came again. Harder. Desperate. Every instinct told him to ignore it. Let them find help elsewhere. He'd given enough. Lost enough. Had nothing left to offer anyone. A 3rd knock. And then a sound that stopped his heart. A child crying. His chair scraped back. His feet moved before his mind could stop them. He crossed to the door, hand trembling on the latch. "Don't open it." He opened it. A woman stood on his porch, swaying like a reed in the wind. Behind her, 3 children huddled together against the storm. Snow caked their thin clothes. Ice hung from the woman's hair. Caleb's breath caught. She was gaunt. Cheekbones sharp as blades beneath skin, stretched too tight. Her dress hung loose, meant for a larger woman. Her eyes, God, her eyes held the desperate brightness of someone walking on borrowed time. The children were worse. The oldest, a girl around 10, tried to stand straight, tried to look brave. But her lips were blue, and her small body shook violently, despite the threadbare coat wrapped around her. A boy, maybe 6, clung to his sister's hand. His face was pale as the snow around them. He stared at Caleb with huge, hollow eyes. And the littlest one, a girl no more than 3. She clutched a ragged doll to her chest and buried her face in her mother's skirt. Her tiny shoulders shook with silent sobs. "Please, sir." The woman's voice cracked like breaking ice. "My children haven't eaten in 3 days. I saw your light. I'm begging you." Caleb gripped the doorframe. Every wall he'd built screamed at him to close the door, to protect the emptiness he'd made his home, to send them away before they could crack the foundation of his grief. The littlest girl looked up at him. Brown eyes, soft and round and trusting. Ellie's eyes had been brown. His throat closed, his chest tightened. He couldn't breathe. "Please." The woman's whisper was almost lost in the wind. "Anything you can spare. A piece of bread. We won't trouble you. Just please. My babies. She swayed again. Her knees buckled. Caleb moved without thinking. His arms caught her before she hit the frozen porch. She weighed nothing. Bones and desperation wrapped in a worn cotton dress. "Mama!" The older girl rushed forward, terror in her voice. "Easy!" Caleb's voice came out rough, rusty from disuse. "I got her!" He lifted the woman like she was made of paper, looked at the 3 children staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Inside," he said. "All of you. Now." They didn't move. The boy looked at his sister. The sister looked at the little one. Nobody trusted this stranger with the scarred face and hard voice. "I ain't gonna hurt you." Caleb softened his tone. Didn't know he still could. "But this cold will. Get inside before you freeze to death on my porch." The older girl made the decision. She grabbed her brother's hand, scooped up the little one, and pushed past Caleb into the warmth. He carried their mother in and kicked the door shut behind him. The wind's howl became a distant moan. Inside, the fire crackled. Heat wrapped around them like an embrace. Caleb laid the woman on the settee near the hearth. Her eyes fluttered but didn't open. Her breathing was shallow, fast. "Is Mama gonna die?" The boy's voice trembled. "No." Caleb said it with more certainty than he felt. "She's just worn out. Needs food and rest." He straightened, looked at the 3 children properly for the first time. They stood in a tight cluster, dripping melted snow onto his clean floor. The older girl had positioned herself in front of the younger 2, protecting them, ready to fight if she had to. Something twisted in Caleb's chest. "What's your name?" he asked her. She lifted her chin. "Rosie Whitmore. This is my brother Samuel. We call him Sam. And this is Violet. I'm Caleb Mercer. This is my ranch." Rosie's eyes flicked around the room, taking in the size of it, the emptiness, the single plate on the big table. "You live here alone, Mr. Mercer?" "I do." "Why?" The question hit him like a fist. Children didn't know to avoid such things, didn't know some questions cut straight to bone. "That ain't your concern." His voice came out harsher than he intended. Rosie flinched, but held her ground. Caleb sighed, ran a hand through his graying hair. "Your mama needs soup, something warm and easy to swallow. You 3 need real food. Come to the kitchen." He didn't wait for them to follow, just walked away trusting they would. They did, like lost ducklings trailing a wolf. In the kitchen, Caleb moved with purpose. Lad-led soup from the pot always simmering on the stove. Sliced bread. Poured milk into cups that hadn't been used in 4 years. His hands trembled slightly as he touched them. Hannah had painted little flowers on these cups, one for each member of the family they'd planned to have. "Sit." He gestured to the table. The children didn't move. "It's all right." Rosie spoke to her siblings, but her eyes stayed on Caleb. "Mama needs us strong. We gotta eat." She led them to the table, helped Violet into a chair. The little girl clutched her doll and stared at the food like it might vanish. "What's your doll's name?" Caleb asked gruffly. Violet looked at him with those brown eyes. "Buttercup. That's a fine name. Papa made her for me." Her lip trembled. "Before he went to heaven." Caleb's heart clenched. He looked at Rosie. "Your father died 8 months ago." Rosie's voice was steady, too steady for a child. "Sickness in his lungs. The bank took our house after. Took everything." "Where were you headed?" "West. Mama heard there's work in Wyoming territory. She can cook and clean and sew. She'll work hard, Mr. Mercer. She ain't asking for charity. We just—" Her voice finally cracked. "We just ran out of road." Sam had already started eating. He shoved bread into his mouth like he was afraid someone would snatch it away. Violet watched him, then did the same. "Slow down." Caleb kept his voice gentle. "Nobody's taking it from you. There's plenty." Sam looked up, cheeks bulging. "Really?" Really, eat slow, or you'll make yourselves sick." He left the meeting and returned to the parlor. The woman, their mother, had opened her eyes. She struggled to sit up, panic flooding her face. "My children." "Kitchen. Eating." Caleb pressed her shoulders back down. "Rest." "I can't. I need to." "What you need is to stay put." He pulled a chair close to the settee, sat down heavily. "When's the last time you ate?" She looked away. "The children come first." "That ain't what I asked." Silence. Then so quiet he almost missed it. 5 days. Caleb stared at her. 5 days. She'd walked through the Wyoming wilderness in December, starving herself to feed her children, and she was still fighting to get up to care for them, to keep going. "What's your name?" "Clara." She met his eyes. "Clara Whitmore." "Well, Clara Whitmore, I'm gonna bring you some soup. You're gonna eat it, then you're gonna sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next." "We'll leave tomorrow." Her voice firmed. "Soon as the storm clears. I won't impose on your kindness, Mr. Mercer. We've troubled you enough." Caleb looked at her, at the pride burning in her eyes despite everything, at the fear she tried so hard to hide. "Storm won't clear for days," he said. "Could be a week. This is Wyoming. December blizzard don't quit easy." "Then you'll stay." He cut her off. "You and the young'uns, until it's safe to travel." "Mr. Mercer." "I ain't asking." He stood. "I'm telling. You go out in that storm, you'll die. All 4 of you. I ain't gonna have that on my conscience." Something flickered in Clara's eyes. Not quite gratitude, something deeper. "Why?" she whispered. "You don't know us. You don't owe us anything." Caleb paused at the kitchen doorway. Didn't turn around. "Maybe I owe myself something." He walked away before she could ask what he meant. Chand. The soup was rich with vegetables and bits of pheasant. Clara ate slowly, savoring each spoonful. Her hands shook, but her grip was determined. Caleb sat across from her watching. The children had finished eating and now sat by the fire. Violet had fallen asleep with her head in Rosie's lap. Sam was fighting to keep his eyes open. "Thank you." Clara set down the empty bowl. "I don't know how to—" "Don't need thanks." "Well, you're getting it anyway." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "I'm stubborn that way." Caleb almost smiled back. Caught himself. Looked away. "There's 3 bedrooms upstairs," he said. "You and the children can have 2 of them. I'll show you the way." "Where will you sleep?" "I got a room down here." He didn't tell her it was the room he'd moved to after the fire, that he couldn't sleep upstairs anymore. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Clara struggled to her feet. She was steadier now, but still weak. Caleb offered his arm without thinking. She took it without hesitation. Together they woke the children and guided them upstairs. Rosie carried Violet, who didn't stir. Sam stumbled along half asleep. Caleb opened the first door. His daughter's room. He hadn't been in here since the funeral. The bed was still made with Ellie's favorite quilt. Her books sat on the shelf. Her drawings hung on the wall. "This was—" His voice caught. "This was my daughter's room." Clara looked at him. Understanding flooded her eyes. "Mr. Mercer, if this is too—" "It's fine." He forced the words out. She'd want it used. She was a generous girl. Always sharing. Always giving. What was her name? Ellie. The name scraped past his lips. Eleanor. But we called her Ellie. How old? 8. When she— He couldn't finish. Clara touched his arm. Just briefly. Just enough. "I'm sorry." Caleb nodded. Couldn't speak. Just nodded. Rosie settled Violet into the bed. The little girl curled around her doll, making soft sounds in her sleep. Rosie tucked the quilt around her with practiced care. "Come on, Sam." Rosie took her brother's hand. Let's find our bed. Caleb showed them to the next room. His and Hannah's. He hadn't changed anything here either. Her hairbrush still sat on the dresser. Her Sunday dress still hung in the wardrobe. I can't take this room, Clara said quietly. It's the best one, the warmest. Your boy needs warmth. Mr. Mercer. Caleb. He surprised himself. Call me Caleb. Clara studied him for a long moment. All right, Caleb, but only if you call me Clara. Something shifted in the air between them, something neither of them was ready to name. Get some sleep, Clara. Caleb stepped back. Morning comes early on a ranch, even in a blizzard. He turned to leave. Caleb. He stopped. What happened to your family? The question hung in the darkness between them. He should ignore it, should walk away, should protect the wounds that had never healed. Fire, he heard himself say. 4 years ago. Barn caught. My wife tried to save the horses. My daughter went in after her. Clara drew a sharp breath. And you? Caleb lifted his left arm, pushed back his sleeve. Even in the dim light the scars were visible, twisted ropey covering him from wrist to shoulder. I tried to save them. His voice was flat, hollow. Got Hannah out. Went back for Ellie. The roof came down. By the time I got out, he couldn't finish. Didn't need to. They were gone, Clara whispered. Hannah lived 3 more days. Burns were too bad. She made me promise. He stopped, swallowed hard. She made me promise to keep living. I've been breaking that promise ever since. Clara moved toward him, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Maybe tonight, she said softly. You started keeping it again. She didn't touch him, didn't offer empty comfort, just stood there close enough that he could feel her warmth. Good night, Caleb. Good night, Clara. He walked downstairs on legs that felt like water. His heart pounded. His hands shook. He felt cracked open, exposed, vulnerable in ways he hadn't allowed himself to be in 4 years. In the kitchen, he cleaned up the dishes, wiped down the table. His eyes fell on the chairs. 4 of them pulled out, used. He left them that way. In the parlor, he stopped before the mantel. His hand reached toward the face-down photographs. Trembled. Pulled back. Not yet. He wasn't ready yet. But something had shifted tonight. Something had cracked. He could feel it in his chest, a warmth he'd thought was dead forever. Caleb Mercer sat in his chair by the dying fire and listened to the storm rage outside. Above him, 4 people slept in rooms that had been empty for years. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if Clara and her children would stay or go, if his heart would survive either option. But for the first time in 4 years, he wasn't alone. And that terrified him more than anything. Morning came gray and howling. The blizzard hadn't stopped. If anything, it had gotten worse. Caleb woke to a sound he'd thought he'd never hear again. Children's laughter. He bolted upright. For one cruel moment, he thought he was dreaming. Thought the past 4 years had been a nightmare, and he'd wake to find Ellie running into his arms. Then reality crashed back. He dressed quickly and followed the sound to the kitchen. Clara stood at his stove making coffee. She'd found the pot the grounds done it all without asking. Color had returned to her cheeks. She looked almost healthy, almost alive. Rosie was setting the table. 8 places, all 8 places. We don't need that many, Caleb said from the doorway. Rosie looked at him calmly. Table's got 8 chairs. Might as well set them all. Looks better that way. He had no argument for that. Sam sat on the floor near the fire playing with something in his hands. Caleb's heart seized. The wooden horse. Thomas's horse. The one Hannah had carved for their nephew's visit. The one Caleb had kept on the mantel because looking at it hurt, but throwing it away hurt more. Was this yours? Sam looked up with bright, eager eyes. Caleb forced himself to breathe. My wife made it. For a boy who visited once. It's real good. Sam made the horse gallop across his knee. "Can I play with it?" Every instinct screamed, no. That horse was sacred, untouchable, a relic of everything he'd lost. "Yeah," Caleb heard himself say. "It's just a toy. Should be played with." Sam's face lit up like Christmas morning. He went back to his game, adding sound effects, completely absorbed. Caleb's eyes burned. Clara appeared at his elbow with a cup of coffee. "I hope you don't mind. I couldn't sit idle." "Don't mind." He took the cup. Their fingers brushed. Neither pulled away. "Storm's getting worse," Clara said quietly. Rosie looked out the window. "Can't even see the barn." "Seen worse. It'll pass." "How long?" "Days. Maybe a week." Clara nodded. Something flickered in her eyes. Relief, worry, both. "We'll earn our keep," she said firmly. "I can cook, clean, mend. Rosie's good with her hands. Sam can help with the animals when it clears. We won't be a burden." "Never said you were." "I'm saying it for both of us." She met his eyes. "I don't take charity, Caleb. Not ever. Whatever we receive, we give back. That's how I raised my children. That's how we'll live under your roof." Caleb studied her. This woman who'd walked 400 miles with 3 children, who'd starved herself to feed them, who stood in his kitchen with pride blazing in her eyes despite having nothing. "Fair enough," he said. The kitchen door burst open. Violet ran in. Buttercup clutched to her chest. "Mr. Caleb, Mr. Caleb." She grabbed his leg and held on tight. Her brown eyes looked up at him, bright and excited. "Buttercup had a dream. She dreamed we stayed here forever and ever." Caleb's heart clenched. He looked at Clara. She'd gone pale. "Violet, honey," Clara started. "And in the dream you were our new papa. And we had a Christmas tree and presents and everything was warm and nobody was hungry ever again." The silence stretched. Sam had stopped playing. Rosie stood frozen with a plate in her hand. Caleb knelt down slowly, brought himself to Violet's level. "That sounds like a real nice dream, little one." Violet nodded vigorously. "Buttercup says dreams come true if you believe hard enough. Do you believe, Mr. Caleb?" He looked into those brown eyes. Ellie's eyes. Eyes that trusted him completely despite knowing nothing about him. Eyes that asked for hope when he had none to give. "I'm trying," he said honestly. "I'm trying real hard." Violet threw her arms around his neck. Held on tight. She smelled like soap and innocence and second chances. Caleb closed his eyes, felt tears threaten, fought them back. Over Violet's shoulder, he saw Clara watching him. Tears tracked down her cheeks, but she was smiling. And Caleb Mercer, who hadn't smiled in 4 years, felt the corners of his mouth twitch. Just a little. Just enough. Violet's arms stayed wrapped around Caleb's neck. He didn't know how to let go. Didn't know if he wanted to. Clara wiped her eyes quickly. "Violet, honey, come help Mama set the table." "But I want to stay with Mr. Caleb." "Violet." The little girl sighed dramatically and released him. She grabbed Buttercup and skipped toward her mother, the moment already forgotten in the way only children could forget. Caleb stood slowly. His knees ached. His heart ached worse. Sam tugged at his sleeve. "Mr. Caleb, can I see the animals today? Mama says there's horses and cows and everything." "Storm's too bad, son. Can't even see the barn." "But when it stops." Caleb looked down at the boy's eager face. 6 years old. Same age Thomas would have been if he'd lived. If Hannah had given birth before the sickness took the baby, along with her dreams. "When it stops," Caleb said. "I'll show you everything." Sam whooped and ran to tell his sisters. Clara appeared at Caleb's side. "You don't have to do that. Make promises, I mean. Children remember everything." "I know they do." "And if you leave, I'll have broken a promise to a boy who's had too many broken already." Caleb met her eyes. "I don't break promises, Clara. Not anymore." Something passed between them. Understanding, respect, the beginning of something neither dared name. "Breakfast is ready," Clara said softly. They gathered around the table. 5 people in a space meant for 8, but somehow it felt full. Caleb bowed his head. "Lord, we thank you for this food, for shelter from the storm, for—" He paused. His throat tightened. "For unexpected blessings. Amen." "Amen?" the children echoed. Clara's hand brushed his under the table. Brief, warm, gone. They ate in comfortable silence. Rosie cut Violet's bacon into small pieces. Sam talked with his mouth full until Clara reminded him of his manners. Normal things, family things. Caleb had forgotten what normal felt like. "Mr. Caleb?" Rosie's voice broke through his thoughts. "Yeah. How big is your ranch?" 2,000 acres, give or take." Sam's eyes went wide. "That's bigger than our whole town was. Wyoming's got room to spare. Do you have cowboys?" Sam bounced in his seat. "Real cowboys with guns and lassos and everything. Used to. Had 4 hands helping me run the place. Let them go after—" Caleb stopped. "After things changed." "So you do everything yourself now?" Rosie frowned. 2,000 acres. I manage. That's too much for one person." "Rosie," Clara's voice held warning. "It's true, Mama. Papa always said a ranch needs many hands. One man can't—" "I said I manage." Caleb's voice came out sharper than he intended. Rosie flinched. Violet's lip trembled. Silence crashed down on the table. Caleb set down his fork, breathed deep. The anger that had flared wasn't at the girl. It was at the truth she'd spoken. "I'm sorry." The words scraped past his pride. "Shouldn't have snapped. You're right. It is too much for one man. But it's all I got left, so I do what I can." Rosie studied him with eyes too old for her face. "Maybe you don't have to do it alone anymore." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Nobody moved. Then Violet knocked over her milk and the moment shattered into chaos and cleanup and Clara scolding gently while Sam laughed and Rosie grabbed a towel. Normal chaos. Family chaos. Caleb watched it all and felt something shift in his chest, a wall cracking, light seeping through. He wasn't sure if he was ready for it, but he wasn't sure he could stop it either. The day passed in strange domesticity. Clara insisted on earning her keep. She cleaned the kitchen until it shone, then moved to the parlor. Caleb found her standing before the fireplace, staring at the face-down photographs. "May I?" she asked without turning. "No." She nodded, didn't push, didn't pry. "When you're ready," she said simply, and moved on to dusting shelves that hadn't been touched in years. Caleb watched her work, efficient, graceful despite her thinness. She hummed softly while she moved an old hymn he half recognized. "You sing." The question came out before he could stop it. Clara's hands stilled. "I used to. Before Thomas, my husband, before he passed. He loved hearing me sing. Said it was what made him fall in love with me." "Why'd you stop?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Didn't seem right. Singing without him there to hear it." Caleb understood that. Understood it bone deep. "My wife used to hum while she cooked." His voice was rough. "Same song every time. Amazing Grace. I can't hear it now without—" He stopped. Couldn't finish. Clara turned to face him. "Without what?" "Without feeling like I'm dying all over again." She crossed the room slowly, stopped an arm's length away. "Maybe that's not a bad thing," she said quietly. "Maybe feeling it means they're still with us, still part of who we are. Or maybe it just means the wound won't heal." "Wounds don't have to heal completely, Caleb. They just have to stop bleeding long enough for us to keep living." He stared at her. This woman who'd lost everything and still found words of comfort for someone else's pain. "How do you do it?" he asked. "Keep going after everything." Clara's eyes glistened. I look at my children. I see 3 reasons to wake up every morning. 3 reasons to put one foot in front of the other. 3 reasons to believe tomorrow might be better than today. She paused. What do you see when you wake up? Caleb didn't answer. Couldn't. Because until yesterday, he'd seen nothing but empty rooms and endless guilt. A crash from upstairs broke the moment. Then Sam's voice. It wasn't me, Clara sighed. Excuse me. She hurried toward the stairs. Caleb watched her go, then sank into his chair. What did he see when he woke up? For the first time in 4 years, he wasn't sure anymore. That evening the storm still raged. Caleb checked the windows, the doors, the supplies. Clara had made stew from what she'd found in his pantry. It was better than anything he'd cooked in years. Where'd you learn to cook like this? He asked over dinner. My mother. She ran a boarding house in Ohio. Said the way to keep people happy was to feed them well. Clara smiled at the memory. I spent my childhood in that kitchen, learning every recipe she knew. She's still living. Passed when I was 17. Influenza. My father followed her 6 months later. They said it was pneumonia, but I think... Clara's voice softened. I think he just didn't want to live without her. Caleb understood that too. Had felt that pull himself in the dark months after the fire. How'd you meet your husband? He came through town fixing wagons. Stayed at the boarding house. I was running it alone by then. Clara's eyes grew distant. He had kind eyes, big hands, gentle touch. Said he'd marry me inside a week. I laughed at him. But he was right. He was right. She smiled sadly. Took him 2 weeks, not 1. But yes, he was right. You loved him. With everything I had. Clara met his eyes. Love doesn't die just because the person does. It stays, hurts, reminds you that you're still alive enough to feel. Caleb looked down at his stew. His appetite had vanished. My wife's name was Hannah. The words came slowly, pulled from somewhere deep. We met at a church social in Missouri. She had red hair, laughed at everything, made me feel like maybe the world wasn't such a terrible place after all. Clara listened without interrupting. We came west together, built this place from nothing. She was stronger than me in every way that mattered. When I wanted to give up, she wouldn't let me. When I was afraid, she made me brave. She sounds wonderful. She was. Caleb's voice cracked. And I couldn't save her. Couldn't save either of them. The fire, I was in the fields, saw the smoke, ran as fast as I could, but it wasn't fast enough. It's never fast enough. Clara reached across the table. Her hand covered his. That wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? Caleb looked up. His eyes burned. I should have been there. Should have checked the lantern. Should have done something different. Anything different. But I wasn't. And now they're gone and I'm still here and I don't... His voice broke completely. I don't know why I'm still here. Clara's grip tightened. Because they'd want you to be. Because surviving isn't betrayal, Caleb. It's honoring what they loved about you. The strength, the goodness, the heart that's still beating even when it doesn't want to. Tears spilled down Caleb's weathered cheeks. He didn't try to hide them. Couldn't have if he'd wanted to. 4 years of frozen grief cracked wide open in that moment. 4 years of silence and solitude and pretending he was fine. It all came pouring out at a kitchen table, witnessed by a woman he'd met less than 2 days ago. And somehow, it didn't feel wrong. It felt like breathing again after being underwater too long. I'm sorry. Caleb wiped his face roughly. Shouldn't be burdening you with... Don't. Clara's voice was firm. Don't apologize for feeling. Don't apologize for being human. You've carried this alone for 4 years. Maybe it's time to let someone help. I don't know how. Neither do I. Clara smiled through her own tears. But we can figure it out together. The word hung between them. Together. Such a small word. Such an enormous promise. Caleb turned his hand over. His hand. Laced his fingers through hers. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The children had been put to bed. Rosie had read to her siblings from one of the books Clara found on Caleb's shelf. Violet fell asleep clutching Buttercup. Sam fought sleep until he lost his arms still wrapped around the wooden horse. Caleb stood in the hallway watching Clara tuck the covers around Violet. "She looks like an angel," Clara whispered. "When she sleeps, like nothing bad has ever touched her." "That's what innocence looks like." Caleb's voice was low. "Before the world teaches them to be afraid." Clara rose and joined him in the doorway. "Sam asked me today if we could stay forever." Caleb's heart lurched. "What did you tell him?" "I told him we'd see what God had planned." Clara looked up at him. "What does God have planned, Caleb?" He wanted to give her an answer. Wanted to tell her they could stay, that he'd protect them, that they'd never have to wander again. But the words stuck in his throat. The fear was too strong. "I don't know," he admitted. "I don't know what I want anymore." Clara nodded slowly. If she was disappointed, she hid it well. "I understand." She moved past him toward the stairs. "Good night, Caleb." "Clara." She stopped. "I want to know." The words tumbled out. "I want to figure it out. I'm afraid. More afraid than I've ever been." "Of what?" "Of losing again." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Of caring about someone, and having them taken away. I barely survived it the first time. I don't think I could survive it again." Clara turned back. She walked to him slowly, stood so close he could smell the soap on her skin. "Life doesn't come with guarantees, Caleb. People leave, people die, hearts break. But the alternative," she touched his face gently, "the alternative is living like you're already dead. And that's not living at all." Her hand fell away. She walked downstairs. Caleb stood alone in the dark hallway, her words echoing in his head. Living like you're already dead. That's exactly what he'd been doing. For 4 years. Building walls and pushing people away and pretending it was safety, when it was really just a slower kind of suicide. He looked into the room where Violet slept. At the small form curled beneath the quilt his daughter had loved. Maybe it was time to stop dying. Maybe it was time to start living again. The second morning brought more snow, more wind, more isolation. But inside the house something had changed. Caleb felt it the moment he walked into the kitchen. Clara was already there, so were the children. But this time they didn't fall silent when he entered. Didn't watch him with wary eyes. "Mr. Caleb," Sam jumped up. "Mama's making flapjacks, real ones with butter and everything." "That's so, I'm helping." Rosie stood at the stove, carefully flipping a flapjack under Clara's watchful eye. "Mama says I'm getting good." "You are getting good." Clara smiled at her daughter. "Better than I was at your age." Violet ran to Caleb and grabbed his hand. "Sit next to me. Please, Buttercup saved you a seat." Caleb looked at the table. Sure enough, the small rag doll sat propped in the chair beside Violet's usual spot. Something warm spread through his chest. "Well, I can't disappoint Buttercup." He let Violet lead him to the table. Let her arrange his napkin. Let her chatter about her dreams while Clara and Rosie finished cooking. Normal. This was normal. This was what he'd lost and thought he'd never have again. Breakfast was loud and messy and wonderful. Sam got syrup in his hair. Violet fed pieces of flapjack to Buttercup. Rosie and Clara exchanged looks that spoke of years of shared experience. And Caleb sat in the middle of it all, feeling like a drowning man who'd suddenly found solid ground. "I need to check the animals," he said when the meal was done. "Storm's letting up a bit. Should be able to make it to the barn." "Can I come?" Sam was on his feet instantly. "You promised?" "Sam, Mr. Caleb needs to," Clara started. "He can come." Caleb surprised himself. Surprised Clara more. "Bundle up warm. We won't be long." Sam's whoop of joy echoed through the house. The walk to the barn was treacherous. Snow drifted to their waists in places. Caleb cut a path, checking back constantly to make sure Sam followed. "Is it always like this?" Sam panted. "Sometimes worse." "Worse?" The boy's eyes went wide. "How do you survive?" "Preparation, planning, stubbornness." "Papa said stubbornness was Mama's best quality." Sam grinned. "Said that's where Rosie gets it." Caleb smiled despite himself. "Your papa sounds like he was a smart man." "He was the smartest." Sam's voice softened. "I miss him. Sometimes I try to remember his face and it gets all blurry. That scares me." Caleb stopped walking, knelt down in the snow until he was eye level with the boy. "That's normal, son. Doesn't mean you loved him less. Just means time does what time does. But the important things—" He tapped Sam's chest. "Those stay right here, forever." Sam's lip trembled. "You really think so?" "I know so." The boy threw his arms around Caleb's neck, held on tight, just like Violet had done, and Caleb held him back. Let himself feel it. Let himself care. When they finally reached the barn, Sam's grief had transformed back into excitement. He ran from stall to stall, greeting each animal like a long-lost friend. "What's the horse's name?" "Dusty." "He's beautiful. Can I ride him?" "Maybe, when you're bigger." "What about the cows?" "That's Bessie, and the brown one's Mabel." Sam giggled. "Those are people names. My wife named them." Caleb's voice caught. "Said all God's creatures deserved proper names." Sam went quiet for a moment. Then, "Your wife sounds nice." "She was." "I bet she'd like Mama." Sam looked up at Caleb with innocent certainty. "Mama's nice too. The nicest person I know." Caleb didn't trust himself to respond, just nodded and showed Sam how to fill the water troughs. They worked together for an hour. Sam asked endless questions. Caleb answered as patiently as he could. By the time they headed back to the house, something had shifted between them. Sam grabbed Caleb's hand as they walked through the snow. Didn't ask, just did it. Caleb let him. That afternoon, Clara found him in the parlor. He stood before the mantel again, staring at the face-down photographs. "You've been standing there for 10 minutes," she said softly. "I know. You don't have to do it today." "I know that too." She came to stand beside him, close but not touching. "What are you afraid of?" Caleb's jaw tightened. Seeing their faces, remembering what I lost, having it hurt all over again. "And what are you hoping for?" The question surprised him. He turned to look at her. "Hoping? There must be something, or you wouldn't be standing here debating." Caleb looked back at the photographs. His hand trembled as he reached toward them. "I'm hoping." His voice broke. He tried again. "I'm hoping I can look at them and remember the good. Remember the joy. Not just the ending." "That sounds like healing." "Does it?" Clara's hand found his, steadied him. "Only one way to find out." Caleb took a deep breath. Let it out slowly. His fingers touched the frame. He lifted it, and there they were. Hannah and Ellie, smiling at the camera, frozen in a moment of perfect happiness. The pain hit him like a physical blow. 4 years of grief crashed through his walls. He gasped, staggered. Clara caught him, held him up. "I can't," he choked out. "I can't. You can." Her voice was fierce. "Look at them, Caleb. Really look." He forced his eyes to the photograph, forced himself to see past the pain. Hannah's smile, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners, the love shining through even in a frozen image. Ellie's gap-toothed grin, her red hair, her mother's hair escaping its ribbon, the wildflower clutched in her small hand. Beautiful. They were so beautiful. "They loved you." Clara's voice was gentle now. "You can see it. That's what you should remember. Not the fire, not the loss. This moment of perfect love. Tears streamed down Caleb's face. But they were different now, not just grief. Something else. Relief. Release. The beginning of acceptance. He set the photograph upright on the mantel, stepped back, looked at it. I haven't seen their faces in 4 years. His voice was raw. 4 years. And they're still beautiful. Still with you. Still part of who you are. Caleb turned to Clara. This woman who'd walked into his life 2 days ago and torn down walls he'd spent years building. How? He asked. How do you know exactly what to say? Clara smiled sadly. Because I've stood where you're standing, felt what you're feeling. The only difference is I had my children to pull me through. You've been doing it alone. Not anymore. The words came out before he could stop them. Clara's breath caught. Caleb, I don't know what this is. He gestured between them. Don't know what it could be. But I know I don't want you to leave. You or the children. I know this house feels alive again for the first time in years. I know... He paused, gathered courage. I know I'm tired of being dead inside. Clara's eyes filled with tears. We can't stay out of pity. I won't be a replacement for what you lost. That's not what I'm asking for. Then what are you asking for? Caleb reached out, touched her face gently, felt her lean into his palm. Time, he said. Time to figure out what this could be. Time for your children to feel safe. Time for all of us to heal. He swallowed hard. I'm asking you to give us a chance. Clara was quiet for a long moment. The fire crackled. Wind howled outside. The photograph of Hannah and Ellie watched from the mantel. And if it doesn't work? Clara whispered. If we can't make this, whatever this is, work, then at least we tried. At least we chose life over fear. Clara reached up, covered his hand with hers. My children are my whole world, Caleb. If I let them attach to you, let them start thinking of this as home, and then it falls apart. I understand. Do you? Because I've watched them lose their father, watched them lose their home. I can't watch them lose anything else. You won't have to. Caleb's voice was steady, certain, more certain than he'd felt in 4 years. I don't know much anymore. Don't trust much. But I trust this. I trust that you walked through my door for a reason. That your children needed this place as much as I needed them. Clara studied him, searching for doubt, for hesitation, for any sign that he'd change his mind. She found none. All right. Her voice was barely a whisper. We'll try. We'll give it time. Caleb let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. From the doorway came a small voice. Does this mean we can stay? They turned. Sam stood there, eyes wide hope naked on his face. Behind him, Rosie held Violet. Both girls watched with held breath. Clara looked at Caleb. He nodded. Yes, sweetheart. Clara's voice shook. We're going to stay. For a while, to see if... She didn't get to finish. Sam launched himself at Caleb, hugging him fiercely. Rosie burst into tears. Violet squirmed free and ran to join the embrace, wrapping herself around Caleb's leg. And Clara. Clara stood with her hand over her heart, watching her children embrace this broken man who'd opened his door to them in a storm. Caleb looked at her over the children's heads, saw the tears, saw the hope, saw the fear that mirrored his own. But mostly, he saw possibility. For the first time in 4 years, he saw a future that wasn't empty. That night after the children were asleep, Caleb sat in his chair by the fire. Clara sat across from him in Hannah's chair. It should have felt wrong. It didn't. What happens when the storm clears? Clara asked softly. We'll figure it out. The town will talk. A widow and her children living with a bachelor rancher. Let them talk. Clara smiled. You don't care what people think. Stopped caring 4 years ago. Caleb paused. Only thing I care about now is right here in this house. Clara's smile faded into something deeper. Caleb, I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other. But I also know. He leaned forward. I know that when I woke up this morning, I had a reason to get out of bed. First time in 4 years. Clara's eyes glistened. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence. The fire burned low. The storm howled, its last finally beginning to ease. Tomorrow the world would return. The snow would start to melt. Life would demand its due. But tonight, two broken people sat together in the warmth, daring to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could be whole again. The third morning brought silence. No wind, no howling, just stillness, so complete it woke Caleb before dawn. He lay in bed listening. Something was wrong. Something was different. Then he realized. The storm had stopped. He dressed quickly and moved to the window. The world outside was white and still. Snow lay in great drifts against the barn, the fences, the road that led to town, the road that was now passable. His stomach tightened. Footsteps sounded on the stairs. Clara appeared in the doorway, her face pale. It stopped, she said quietly. I know. They stood in silence, the weight of what this meant pressing down on both of them. The children are still asleep, Clara said. I didn't want to wake them until what? She looked at him. Fear and hope warred in her eyes. Until we decided what comes next. Caleb crossed to her, took her hands in his. I thought we already decided. That was in the middle of the storm. Easy to make promises when the world's shut out. Clara's voice trembled. But now the road's clear. The town's waiting. Reality is waiting. Clara, I need you to be sure, Caleb. Her grip tightened. Really sure. Because if we do this, if we stay, there's no going back. Not for me. Not for my children. Caleb looked into her eyes. Saw the woman who'd walked 400 miles to give her children a chance. The woman who'd knocked on a stranger's door in a blizzard. The woman who'd somehow cracked open his frozen heart. I'm sure, he said. Clara's breath caught. You don't know me, not really. You don't know. I know enough. He cupped her face in his rough hands. I know you're strong. I know you love your children more than your own life. I know you're kind and brave and stubborn as hell. A laugh escaped her. Stubborn? Your daughter warned me. He smiled. Said you'd argue with a fence post if you thought it was wrong. Clara's laugh turned into something closer to a sob. Rosie talks too much. She talks just enough. Caleb grew serious. I meant what I said, Clara. I want you to stay. All of you. Not as guests. Not as charity cases. As... He paused. The word stuck in his throat. As what? Clara whispered. As family. The word hung between them, sacred, terrifying, full of promise. Clara's tears spilled over. Caleb, I know it's fast. I know people will talk. I know there's 100 reasons this could go wrong. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. But I spent 4 years listening to reasons. 4 years letting fear make my choices. I'm done with that. What if we fail? What if we don't? Clara stared at him. Then she rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his cheek. Soft, brief, a promise and a prayer. All right, she whispered. We stay. The children took the news better than expected. Sam whooped and ran outside to play in the snow. Rosie tried to look calm, but couldn't hide her smile. Violet hugged Buttercup and announced that her doll had known all along. Buttercup's very smart, Caleb said gravely. She is. Violet nodded. She says you're going to be a good papa. The word hit him like lightning. He looked at Clara, panicked. Violet, honey, Mr. Caleb isn't... Clara started. Not yet. Violet's voice was matter-of-fact. But Buttercup says he will be. Buttercup's never wrong. She skipped off to join her brother outside. Clara touched Caleb's arm. I'm sorry. She doesn't understand. It's fine. His voice was rough. She's just a child. But the word echoed in his head. Papa, Papa, Papa. He'd been a papa once. Hadn't lived up to it. Hadn't protected the ones who called him that. Could he do it again? Did he deserve to try? You're thinking too loud, Clara said softly. I'm thinking about whether I can be what they need. You already are. She squeezed his arm. You opened your door, fed them, kept them safe. That's more than most would do. That's just basic decency. No, Caleb. That's love. The beginning of it anyway. Love. Another word that terrified him. Another word that felt like a door he wasn't sure he could walk through. But looking at Clara, at the trust in her eyes, he wanted to try. God help him, he wanted to try. The morning passed in a flurry of activity. Clara organized the kitchen, while Caleb checked on the animals. Sam followed him everywhere, peppering him with questions. How much does a cow weigh? Depends on the cow. How much does Bessie weigh? Maybe 1,000 pounds? That's as much as a horse. More sometimes. Can I name a cow if you get a new one? Can I pick the name? Caleb looked down at the boy's eager face. Thomas's age. Thomas's enthusiasm. Yeah, he said. You can pick the name. Sam's grin could have lit the barn. Around midday, Caleb made a decision. He found Clara in the kitchen, flour on her apron. I need to go to town, he said. Her hand stilled. Today. Supplies are low, and there's... He hesitated. There's things people need to know. About us. About you being here. About what we're planning. He met her eyes. I won't have them thinking badly of you, Clara. Whatever they say about me is one thing. But you and the children... Caleb, you don't have to... Yes, I do. His voice was firm. You're under my protection now. That means making sure the town knows to respect you. Clara studied him for a long moment. You're a good man, Caleb Mercer. I'm a man trying to be good. There's a difference. She smiled and touched his cheek. Then try harder, because you're already better than you think. The ride to Miller's Creek took 2 hours through the drifted snow. Dusty picked his way carefully, sensing his rider's tension. Caleb hadn't been to town in 3 months, hadn't wanted to face the whispers, the pitying looks, the well-meaning condolences that felt like knives. But this was different. This was necessary. He tied Dusty outside the general store and pushed through the door. Martha Crawford was inside, examining bolts of fabric. She looked up and froze. Caleb Mercer. Well, I never. Martha. Haven't seen you in town since September. Silas said you'd gone full hermit. Silas talks too much. Martha laughed. That he does. What brings you out of hiding? Caleb gathered his courage. I got guests at the ranch. A widow and her 3 young'uns. Storm drove them to my door. Martha's eyebrows rose. A widow. Name's Clara Whitmore. Husband died last spring. She's been traveling west looking for work. And she ended up at your place. Knocked during the blizzard. Kids were starving. Caleb met Martha's eyes. I couldn't turn them away. Of course you couldn't. Martha's voice softened. You never could turn away someone in need, no matter what you pretended. They're staying, Martha. For good. The words fell like stones into water. Martha's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Staying as in making a life. She needs a home. The children need stability. And Caleb's jaw tightened. I need a reason to keep living. Martha stared at him for a long moment. Then her face broke into a wide smile. Well, praise the Lord and pass the biscuits. Caleb Mercer's finally rejoining the living. Don't make a fuss. I'll make whatever fuss I please. Martha crossed to him and pulled him into a hug. Hannah would be proud of you, Caleb. You know that, don't you? His throat closed. I hope so. I know so. Martha pulled back. Now when do we get to meet this Clara? Soon. Let her settle in first. And Martha. I know. Don't gossip. She grinned. Much. The rest of his errands went smoother than expected. The storekeeper, old Mr. Patterson, simply nodded and added extra supplies to the order. Doc Holloway stopped him on the street, heard the news, and clapped him on the shoulder. About damn time, the old doctor said. I was starting to think I'd be closing your eyes before you ever opened them again. That's morbid, Doc. That's truth. Ezra's weathered face creased into a smile. Bring them to town soon. Let folks see you've got something to live for. Caleb rode home as the sun began to set. His saddlebags were full. His heart was fuller. For the first time in years, he was looking forward to tomorrow. Clara met him at the door, her face tight with worry. You were gone longer than I expected. Snow slowed me down. He handed her the packages. Got everything on your list, and some extra. She opened one package and gasped. Caleb, this is fabric. For new dresses. For you and the girls. He shifted awkwardly. The shopkeeper's wife helped me pick it. I don't know much about... Clara threw her arms around him. Caleb stood frozen for a moment. Then his arms came up, wrapped around her, held her tight. Thank you. She whispered against his chest. Thank you for everything. It's just fabric. It's not. She pulled back, eyes shining. It's you saying we matter. That we're worth spending on. That we're not just... Her voice broke. Not just a burden. You were never a burden. Caleb touched her face. Not for 1 second. They stood there in the doorway, wrapped in each other, as the last light faded from the sky. Papa's home. Violet's shriek shattered the moment. She came running from the kitchen, arms outstretched. Caleb caught her, swung her up, felt her arms lock around his neck. Buttercup missed you, Violet announced. Just Buttercup. And me, but mostly Buttercup. Clara laughed and wiped her eyes. Come inside before you freeze. Dinner's ready. They ate together that night like a real family. Sam talked about his snow adventures. Rosie showed Caleb the mending she'd done on his shirts. Violet insisted on sitting in his lap for dessert. And Clara watched it all with tears in her eyes and hope in her heart. After the children were in bed, Caleb and Clara sat by the fire. The silence between them was comfortable now, easy. What did the town say? Clara asked quietly. About us. Martha Crawford's probably spreading the news as we speak. By tomorrow, everyone in the territory will know. Does that worry you? Caleb considered the question. No. What worries me is whether I can live up to what they'll expect. What do you mean? They'll expect a family. A real one. They'll expect me to be a husband, a father. He stared into the flames. I failed at those things once already. You didn't fail, Caleb. You lost. There's a difference. Is there... Clara moved from her chair to sit beside him. Her hand found his. Failure is giving up. You never gave up. You tried to save them. You almost died trying. She squeezed his fingers. That's not failure. That's love. Love that wasn't enough. Love is never enough to stop death. Her voice was soft, but steady. But it's always enough to make life worth living. That's what you're doing now. Choosing to live. Choosing to love again. Caleb turned to look at her. The firelight danced across her face, highlighting the strength there. The beauty he was only just beginning to see. Clara, you don't have to say anything. She smiled. I know this is complicated. I know we're both damaged. But I also know... She paused. I know that when I look at you, I see a man worth believing in. Caleb couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He leaned forward, slowly. giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met, gentle, tentative, a question more than an answer. When they parted, Clara's eyes were bright with tears. "We're really doing this," she whispered. "We're really doing this." She rested her head on his shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright over the endless snow. Inside, two broken hearts began to beat together. The fourth day brought trouble. Caleb was in the barn when he heard the horses. Multiple horses. Moving fast. He grabbed his rifle and stepped outside. 3 riders emerged from the tree line, men he didn't recognize. Hard faces, harder eyes. The leader reined up a few yards away. He was lean mean with a scar running from his forehead to his jaw. "This the Mercer Ranch." Caleb kept his rifle ready. "Who's asking?" "Name's Silas Wade, looking for a woman, Clara Whitmore. Heard she might have passed this way." Caleb's blood went cold. "Why are you looking for her?" "That's our business." Wade's smile didn't reach his eyes. "She owes money to some folks back in Nebraska. We're here to collect." "What kind of money?" "The kind that comes with interest." Wade leaned forward in his saddle. "Her husband ran up debts before he died, left her holding the bag. She's been running ever since." Caleb's mind raced. Clara had mentioned the bank taking everything. She hadn't mentioned debts, hadn't mentioned men following her. "Ain't seen anyone like that," he said carefully. "That so?" Wade's eyes swept the ranch, the house, the smoke rising from the chimney. "You got a lot of space here for a man living alone." "I like my privacy." "I bet you do." Wade's smile turned cold. "But here's the thing, friend. We tracked her all the way from Nebraska. Lost the trail in the storm. But we know she was heading this way. And you're the only ranch for miles." Caleb raised his rifle slightly. "You calling me a liar?" "I'm saying maybe you got confused. Memory's a funny thing." Wade's hand drifted toward his holster. "Maybe you invite us in, let us look around. Jog your memory a bit. Or maybe you get off my land before I jog my trigger finger." The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. Wade's companions shifted nervously. Their hands hovered near their guns. Then Wade laughed, cold and hard. "All right, friend. We'll go. For now." He pulled his horse around. "But we'll be back. And if we find out you've been hiding her..." He looked over his shoulder. "Well, it won't be pleasant." They rode away, disappearing into the trees. Caleb stood motionless until they were gone. Then he ran for the house. Clara met him at the door. Her face was white. "I heard," she said. "From the window. I heard everything." "Clara, I should have told you." Her voice shook. "Thomas had debts. Gambling debts. I didn't know until after he died. The men came, demanded payment. I didn't have it, so we ran." "How much?" $500. Clara's laugh was bitter. "A fortune. More than I could earn in years." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was ashamed." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Because I thought if you knew you'd send us away. Because I was so desperate to finally stop running." "Clara." Caleb gripped her shoulders. "Listen to me. I don't care about the debts. I don't care about your husband's mistakes. All I care about is keeping you safe." "You can't fight them, Caleb. There's 3 of them. They're dangerous. They've already..." She stopped. "Already what?" Clara's face crumpled. "The farmer who helped us in Kansas. He hid us for a week. When they found out, they burned his barn. Beat him so badly he lost an eye." Caleb's jaw hardened. "They won't touch you." "You don't know what they're capable of." "I don't care what they're capable of." He pulled her close. "I lost one family because I wasn't there to protect them. I will not lose another. You understand? I will not." Clara sobbed against his chest. The children appeared at the top of the stairs. Rosie's face was pale. Sam clutched the wooden horse. Violet held Buttercup tight. "Mama!" Rosie's voice was small. "What's wrong?" Caleb looked up at them. 3 frightened faces. 3 innocent lives caught in something they didn't cause and didn't deserve. "Nothing's wrong," he said firmly. "Just some strangers passing through. They won't bother us." "Promise?" Sam asked. Caleb met the boy's eyes, saw the trust there, the fear, the hope. "I promise." He only hoped he could keep it. That night Caleb made preparations. He checked every window, every door, loaded his rifles, placed them strategically throughout the house. Clara watched him work her face tight with worry. "We should leave," she said quietly. "Take the children and go, before they come back." "Go where?" "I don't know. Anywhere. California, Oregon, just away. And keep running for the rest of your lives." Caleb shook his head. "No, this ends here." "You don't owe us this, Caleb. You didn't sign up for I signed up the moment I opened that door." He set down the rifle and crossed to her. "I signed up when I let your children into my heart, when I let you into—" He stopped, the words too big, too soon. "Into what?" Clara whispered. Caleb looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his life and destroyed his careful solitude, who'd given him a reason to live again, who was now asking him to let her walk out. "Into everything," he said. Clara's breath caught. "I love you." The words hung in the air, raw, terrifying, true. "I know it's too fast. I know it doesn't make sense. But I love you, Clara. You and your children. And I will be damned if I let anyone take you away from me." Clara stared at him. Tears streamed down her face. Then she threw herself into his arms. "I love you too," she whispered. "God help me, I love you too." They held each other in the lamplight, 2 broken people choosing to be whole together. Tomorrow the threat would still be there. Tomorrow hard men would return with violence in their hearts. But tonight, love burned brighter than fear, and Caleb Mercer, who had lost everything, once swore on his soul he would not lose again. Dawn came cold and gray. Caleb hadn't slept. He sat by the window rifle across his knees, watching the tree line. Clara appeared beside him, a cup of coffee in her hands. "You've been there all night." "Couldn't sleep." "Neither could I." She set the cup down. Her hands were trembling. "Caleb, I've been thinking, if you're going to say we should leave again, save your breath. I was going to say we should send the children away, to the Crawfords, just until this is over." Caleb turned to look at her. The idea had merit. If things went bad, the children shouldn't be here to see it. "They won't want to go. They don't have a choice." Clara's voice hardened. "I won't have them caught in the middle of this." He nodded slowly. "I'll ride over this morning, talk to Martha." "And then what?" Caleb looked back out the window. "Then we wait." Telling the children was harder than expected. Sam cried. Rosie argued. Only Violet seemed to understand, clutching Buttercup with solemn eyes. "It's just for a few days," Clara said, kneeling before them. "Mrs. Crawford has children your age. You'll have fun." "I don't want fun." Sam's voice cracked. "I want to stay with you and Mr. Caleb." "I know, sweetheart, but this is important." "Is it the bad men?" Rosie's voice was quiet. "The ones who came yesterday." Clara and Caleb exchanged glances. "Yes," Caleb said. No point in lying. Rosie was too smart for that. "There might be trouble. We need to know you're safe." Rosie's chin lifted. "I can help. I can shoot. Papa taught me." "I know you can." Caleb put his hand on her shoulder. "But the best help you can give is taking care of your brother and sister. Can you do that for me?" Rosie's eyes searched his face. Whatever she saw there made her nod slowly. "Yes, sir. That's my girl." The ride to the Crawford ranch took an hour. Martha met them at the door, her face grave. I heard about the strangers, she said. Silas saw them riding through town yesterday, asking questions. They're looking for Clara. Martha's eyes flicked to the children huddled together on her porch. Those little ones. Her husband left debts. The men collecting aren't the forgiving type. Lord have mercy. Martha shook her head. Bring them inside. They'll be safe here. Clara knelt before her children one last time. Remember what I told you. Be good for Mrs. Crawford. Mind your manners. And no matter what, her voice broke. No matter what you hear, know that Mama loves you. More than anything in this world. Violet started to cry. Sam tried to be brave, but his lip trembled. Rosie pulled them both close. We love you too, Mama. Rosie's voice was steady. Come back to us, please. Clara kissed each of them, held them tight, then forced herself to let go. Caleb watched from a distance, his heart aching. These children had already lost their father. The thought of them losing their mother too. He wouldn't let it happen, whatever it cost. Martha walked them back to the horses. Caleb Mercer, you listen to me. Her voice was fierce. Those children need their mama. Don't you let anything happen to her. I won't. And don't you dare get yourself killed either. You hear me? You've got people counting on you now. Caleb looked back at the house where 3 small faces pressed against the window. I hear you, he said. They rode back in silence. Clara's face was pale, her jaw tight. She hadn't looked back once. They'll be all right, Caleb said. I know. Her voice was hollow. It's just leaving them. After everything we've been through, it feels like cutting off my own arm. We'll get them back, as soon as this is done. Clara turned to look at him. And how exactly is this going to be done? 3 armed men against 1 rancher and a widow. I'm not just any rancher. Caleb? I fought in the war, Clara. 3 years. Saw things that would turn your hair white. His jaw hardened. These men think they're dangerous. They don't know what dangerous looks like. Clara studied him. You're not just going to wait for them, are you? No, ma'am. I'm going to finish this. How? Caleb's eyes went cold. By making them wish they'd never heard the name Whitmore. They reached the ranch by midday. Caleb immediately began preparing. He checked the ammunition, cleaned the rifles, positioned them at every window. Clara watched him work. What can I do? Can you shoot? Thomas taught me. I'm not great, but I can hit a target. Caleb handed her a revolver. Keep this with you. Don't hesitate to use it. Clara took the gun. Her hands were steady now. Something had shifted in her eyes. Fear had become determination. I won't let them take me, she said quietly. And I won't let them hurt you. Clara, I mean it, Caleb. If it comes to that, if there's no other way. She met his eyes. I'd rather die fighting than live running. Caleb pulled her close, kissed her forehead. It won't come to that. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. I've never broken a promise to you yet. She almost smiled. We've only known each other a week. Best week of my life. This time she did smile. Sad and beautiful and brave. Mine too. The afternoon passed in tense silence. Caleb kept watch while Clara prepared food neither of them would eat. Around 4 o'clock, dust appeared on the road. Clara. Caleb's voice was sharp. Get upstairs, now. I'm not hiding while you... Please. He turned to face her. Please. For me. Clara hesitated. Then she nodded and ran for the stairs. Caleb picked up his rifle and stepped onto the porch. 3 riders emerged from the dust. Wade in front, his 2 men flanking. They stopped at the edge of the yard. Afternoon, friend. Wade's smile was a knife. Told you we'd be back. And I told you to get off my land. See, here's the thing. Wade crossed his arms on his saddle horn. We've been asking around. Turns out a widow with 3 kids showed up at your place during the storm. Matches the description of our runaway. Don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Wade's eyes flicked to the house. Where are the children, Mercer? They were here yesterday. Saw the little one in the window. Caleb's finger tightened on the trigger. Gone. Sent them away. But not the woman. Wade's smile widened. She's still here. I can smell her fear from here. Last warning. Leave now or this ends badly. For who? Wade laughed. There's 3 of us and 1 of you. Odds aren't in your favor. Odds never are. Something in Caleb's voice made Wade pause. The 2 men behind him shifted nervously. You really willing to die for some woman you just met? Wade asked. I'm willing to kill for her. There's a difference. Silence stretched between them. The wind picked up cold and bitter. Then Wade moved. His hand flew to his holster. His men followed suit. Caleb was faster. The rifle cracked twice. The first shot caught the man on Wade's left, spinning him from his saddle. The second grazed Wade's shoulder, throwing off his aim. Wade's shot went wide. His remaining man panicked, firing blindly. Caleb dropped to one knee, using the porch rail as cover. He fired again. The third man screamed and fell. Wade wheeled his horse, clutching his bleeding shoulder. His face was twisted with rage. This ain't over, Mercer. You hear me? This ain't over. He spurred his horse and fled, leaving his men groaning in the dirt. Caleb stood slowly. His hands were shaking. The rifle felt heavy. Caleb! Clara ran from the house. She threw herself into his arms. Are you hurt? Are you? I'm fine. He held her tight. I'm fine. She pulled back and looked at the wounded men. They're still alive. I know. Caleb's voice was grim. We need to get them to Doc Holloway, and then we need to warn the sheriff. What about Wade? Caleb looked toward the road where Wade had disappeared. He'll be back. Men like him always come back. They worked quickly. Caleb loaded the wounded men into his wagon while Clara bandaged their wounds. They groaned and cursed, but were too injured to fight. Why are you helping us? One of them gasped. We came to hurt you. You came to do a job, Caleb said flatly. Job's over. Now you're just men who need a doctor. The man stared at him with something like respect. Wade won't stop. You know that, right? I know. He's crazy. Lost his mind when his brother died. The one you shot that was his cousin. Caleb's stomach tightened. Family blood. That made it worse. Then I'll just have to be ready for him. The trip to town took 2 hours. Doc Holloway met them at his office, took one look at the wounded men, and started working without questions. Sheriff Tom Bennett was less accommodating. You telling me you shot 2 men on your property? They drew first. I defended myself. And the third one, this Wade character. He ran, but he'll be back. Bennett rubbed his face. This is a mess, Caleb. A real mess. I know. That's why I'm here. These men were hunting a woman, trying to collect on her dead husband's debts. They've hurt people before. They'll hurt more. What woman? Caleb hesitated. Then, Clara Whitmore. She's staying at my ranch. Bennett's eyebrows rose. The widow folks have been talking about the same. And you're protecting her. I'm going to marry her. The words came out before Caleb could stop them. Bennett stared. Even Caleb was surprised. But it was true. He realized it now with perfect clarity. He was going to marry Clara Whitmore, if she'd have him, if they survived this. Well, Bennett cleared his throat. That's unexpected. Sheriff, I need your help. Wade is dangerous. He won't stop until Clara's dead, or he is. What do you want me to do? Put together a posse. Find him before he finds us. Bennett was quiet for a long moment. I can have men ready by morning, but tonight... Tonight we're on our own. You got somewhere safe to go? Caleb thought of Clara, of the children at the Crawford Ranch, of everything he had to lose. I'll figure something out. They rode back as the sun set. Clara was silent, lost in thought. What's wrong? Caleb asked. You said you were going to marry me. Caleb's face heated. You heard that. Hard not to. She looked at him. Did you mean it? He pulled his horse to a stop, turned to face her fully. I meant it. Every word. You haven't even asked me. I was getting to that. Clara's lips twitched. Were you? Eventually. When the timing was better. When would the timing be better? When we're not being hunted. When life is calm and easy. She shook her head. Life is never calm and easy, Caleb. If we wait for perfect, we'll wait forever. So is that a yes? That's a ask me properly. Despite everything, the blood, the danger, the fear, Caleb laughed. Clara Whitmore, will you marry me? Yes. Her voice was fierce. Yes, I'll marry you. Now let's get home before that lunatic comes back. They rode fast, hearts pounding with fear and joy tangled together. They didn't see Wade until it was too late. He emerged from the shadows as they reached the ranch. His face was pale from blood loss, but his gun was steady. End of the line, lovebirds. Caleb moved to shield Clara. Get out of the way, Mercer. This is between me and her. No, it's not. It's between you and me now. Wade's laugh was ugly. You killed my cousin, shot my men, over what a woman you met a week ago. She's worth dying for. Then you're a fool. Wade raised his gun. And fools die. Clara screamed. A shot rang out. But it wasn't Wade's gun. Wade's eyes went wide. He looked down at his chest where blood was spreading. Then he crumpled to the ground. Behind him, holding a smoking rifle, stood Rosie. Clara's scream became something else entirely. Rosie, Rosie, oh God. The girl dropped the rifle. Her face was white as snow. I saw him from the window, she whispered. At the Crawford Ranch. I saw him riding this way. I took Mrs. Crawford's rifle. I ran through the fields. I had to. I had to. She collapsed. Caleb caught her before she hit the ground. She was shaking violently, her eyes glazed. I killed him. Her voice was barely audible. I killed a man. You saved us. Caleb held her tight. You saved your mama. You saved me. Clara fell to her knees beside them, gathering Rosie into her arms. My brave girl. My brave, brave girl. Rosie buried her face in her mother's shoulder and sobbed. The next hours blurred together. Sheriff Bennett arrived with his posse. Doc Holloway came to check on Rosie. Martha Crawford brought the other children who rushed to their mother with cries of relief. Through it all, Caleb stood guard, watching, protecting, making sure no other threats emerged from the darkness. Finally, as dawn broke, the last of the officials left. The body was gone. The questions were answered. The danger was past. Caleb found Clara in the kitchen, staring at nothing. How's Rosie? Sleeping. Doc gave her something to help. Clara's voice was hollow. She's 10 years old, Caleb. 10 years old, and she killed a man. To save you. To save all of us. I know. But the cost. Clara's face crumpled. The cost of protecting us shouldn't fall on a child. Caleb sat beside her, took her hands. She's strong, Clara. Like her mama. She'll get through this. How do you know? Because she has you, and me, and 2 siblings who love her. He squeezed her hands. She won't have to carry this alone. Clara looked at him. Tears streamed down her face. When I sent them to the Crawfords, I thought I was protecting them. But Rosie, she came anyway. She risked everything. That's what family does. I know. Clara's breath hitched. I just wish she'd never had to learn that lesson. Some lessons come too early, but they make us who we are. Clara leaned into him. He wrapped his arms around her and held on. It's over, he whispered. It's finally over. Is it? Yes, Wade's dead. His men are in custody. The debts. He paused. I paid them. Clara pulled back sharply. What? This morning. Wired the money to Nebraska. $500. Gone. Caleb, you can't. Already done. That's everything you have. Years of savings. It's money, Clara. Just money. He cupped her face. You and those children are worth more than any amount I could save. Worth more than this ranch. Worth more than my life. Clara stared at him speechless. I told you I meant it, Caleb said. When I said I'd marry you, I meant all of it, the good and the bad, the debts and the dangers, everything. Fresh tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. I don't deserve you. You deserve better, but I'm what you got. She laughed, actually laughed. You're exactly what I prayed for, even when I thought God had stopped listening. Maybe he was just waiting for the right moment. Maybe he was. They sat together as the sun rose higher, the kitchen filled with golden light. The house was quiet, peaceful, safe. For the first time since Clara had knocked on his door, there was no storm coming. No danger lurking. No fear of what tomorrow might bring. Just two people holding each other ready to begin again. We should get some sleep, Clara said finally. We should. Neither moved. The children will wake up soon. They'll need breakfast. They will. Still neither moved. Clara looked up at him. I love you, Caleb Mercer. I love you, Clara Whitmore. He kissed her forehead. Soon to be Clara Mercer. That has a nice ring to it. I thought so too. She smiled, and in that smile Caleb saw everything. The future, the family, the life he'd thought was lost forever. He'd opened his door to a stranger in a storm. And she'd given him back his heart. 2 weeks passed. The snow began to melt. Life returned to something resembling normal. Rosie didn't speak for 3 days after the shooting. She sat by windows staring at nothing, her eyes haunted by what she'd done. Clara stayed close, never pushing, just present. On the 4th day, Rosie found Caleb in the barn. Mr. Caleb? He looked up from mending a bridle. Yeah. Am I a bad person? The question hit him like a punch. He set down his tools and gave her his full attention. Come here. Rosie walked over slowly. She looked smaller than her 10 years, fragile in a way she hadn't been before. Sit down. Caleb patted the hay bale beside him. She sat, hands folded in her lap. I killed a man. Her voice was barely a whisper. You saved your family. It's the same thing. No, it's not. Caleb turned to face her. Bad people kill for pleasure, for greed, for hatred. You killed because you had no other choice. Because if you hadn't, your mama would be dead. I would be dead. And you and your brother and sister would be alone in the world. Rosie's lip trembled. I keep seeing his face. When he fell. The way he looked at me. That'll fade. Not completely. Never completely. But it'll fade. Does it ever stop hurting? Caleb was quiet for a long moment. I killed men in the war. Boys, some of them. Younger than you. I didn't want to. Had to. He looked at his hands. The hurt doesn't stop. But you learn to carry it. Learn to remember that you did what you had to do to protect the people you love. Rosie wiped her eyes. Mama says you're a hero. Your mama's the hero. Survived things that would break most people. Kept you 3 alive against all odds. He put his hand on Rosie's shoulder. And you're a hero too. Even if it doesn't feel like it right now. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a monster. Monsters don't cry over what they've done. Monsters don't lose sleep. Monsters don't ask if they're bad people. Caleb squeezed her shoulder. You're not a monster, Rosie. You're just a little girl who had to grow up too fast. Rosie's tears spilled over. She leaned into him, and Caleb held her while she cried. I want my papa, she sobbed. I want him to tell me it's okay. Caleb's heart cracked. I know you do, and I'm sorry I'm not him, but I'm here, and I'm telling you it's okay. You did good, Rosie. You saved us all. She cried until there were no tears left. Then she pulled back, wiping her face with her sleeve. Mr. Caleb? Yeah. Can I call you something else? Mr. Caleb sounds too formal, like you're a stranger. What did you have in mind? Rosie hesitated. Violet calls you Papa sometimes, when she forgets. Caleb's throat tightened. I've noticed. Would it be okay if... She stopped, tried again. I don't want to replace my real Papa, but... You won't replace him. Nobody could. Caleb's voice was gentle. But maybe you could make room for someone else, if you want. Rosie looked at him with eyes too old for her face. I'd like that. Then you can call me whatever feels right. She nodded slowly, then almost too quiet to hear Pa. One word, one syllable. It meant everything. Caleb pulled her into a hug. That sounds just fine to me. The wedding was set for Christmas Eve. Clara wanted something small. Caleb didn't care about the details, just the result. Are you sure about this? Clara asked for the 100th time. They stood in the kitchen making preparations for the ceremony. I've never been more sure of anything. It's so fast, people will talk. Let them talk. Caleb caught her hand. I've wasted 4 years of my life hiding from happiness. I'm done wasting time. Clara's eyes softened. What if you wake up one day and realize you made a mistake? Then I'll be the luckiest man alive. Because even a mistake with you is better than a lifetime without. She laughed despite herself. That's either the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me or the most foolish. Probably both. Clara rose on her toes and kissed him. Definitely both. Sam burst through the door. Mama, there's a wagon coming. They hurried outside. A wagon approached, driven by Martha Crawford. Beside her sat Doc Holloway. Behind them, more wagons, more people. What in the world? Clara murmured. Martha pulled up and climbed down, her face beaming. You didn't think we'd let you get married without a proper celebration, did you? Martha, we wanted something small. Nonsense. The whole town wanted to come. Couldn't say no. Martha gestured to the wagons still arriving. Everyone brought food, decorations. Even Reverend Mills came to do the ceremony proper. Caleb looked at the stream of people filling his yard. People he'd pushed away for 4 years. People who'd respected his grief and given him space. Now they were here smiling, carrying dishes and gifts and good wishes. I don't know what to say, he managed. Don't say anything. Doc Holloway clapped him on the shoulder. Just accept that people care about you. That's been your problem all along. Too stubborn to let folks in. Caleb looked at Clara. She was crying and laughing at the same time. Looks like we're having a big wedding after all, she said. Looks like it. You okay with that? Caleb watched Sam run to greet the other children spilling from wagons. Saw Rosie smile for the first time in weeks as Martha's daughter pulled her into an embrace. Heard Violet squeal with delight at the commotion. Yeah, he said. I'm okay with that. The ceremony took place at sunset. Clara wore the blue dress she'd made from the fabric Caleb bought in town. Her hair was braided with winter berries Martha had brought. She'd never looked more beautiful. Caleb wore his only suit dusty from years in the wardrobe. He'd tried to brush it clean, but Clara had laughed and said she didn't care what he wore as long as he showed up. He showed up. The whole town gathered in the parlor. Every chair was filled. People stood along the walls, crammed into doorways, peered through windows. Reverend Mills stood before the fireplace. On the mantel behind him, 2 photographs watched the proceedings. Hannah and Ellie included in this moment, as they'd been included in every moment since Clara arrived. "Dearly beloved," the Reverend began. Caleb barely heard the words. He was too busy looking at Clara, at the tears shining in her eyes, at the smile she couldn't contain, at the woman who'd walked through a blizzard and into his heart. "Do you, Caleb Mercer, take this woman?" "I do." The Reverend blinked. "I wasn't finished." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "Sorry." Caleb's face heated. "Got ahead of myself." Clara squeezed his hands. "It's all right. I like a man who knows what he wants." More laughter. The Reverend cleared his throat and continued. This time Caleb waited for the proper moment. "I do." "And do you, Clara Whitmore, take this man?" "I do." She grinned. "Turnabout's fair play." The Reverend sighed, but he was smiling. "Then, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Caleb pulled Clara close and kissed her. The room erupted in cheers. When they finally parted, Violet pushed through the crowd. "Does this mean you're my papa now? For real?" Caleb knelt down. "If you want me to be." "Buttercup says yes, and so do I." She threw her arms around his neck. Sam was next, barreling into Caleb with enough force to knock him backward. "I have a pa again. A real pa." Rosie hung back, uncertain. Caleb held out his arm. "There's room for one more." She hesitated only a moment. Then she was there, joining the embrace, holding tight. Clara watched her family, her whole complete family, with tears streaming down her face. Martha appeared beside her. "You did good, Clara. Real good." "I didn't do anything. He did all the work." "You knocked on his door. That took more courage than anything." Martha squeezed her hand. "You saved him, you know. He was dying inside. Everyone could see it. You brought him back to life." Clara looked at Caleb, buried under 3 children, laughing like she'd never heard him laugh. "We saved each other," she said. The celebration lasted well into the night. Food was eaten, stories were shared. Children ran wild while adults talked and laughed and welcomed Clara into the community. Around midnight, the last guest departed. The children were asleep upstairs, exhausted from excitement. Clara and Caleb stood on the porch watching the wagons disappear into the darkness. "Some wedding," Clara said. "Wasn't what we planned." "Nothing ever is." She leaned against him. "But it was perfect." Caleb wrapped his arm around her. "You tired?" "Exhausted, but too happy to sleep." "I know what you mean." They stood in comfortable silence. The night was cold but clear. Stars blazed overhead. "Caleb?" "Yeah." "Thank you." "For what?" "For opening your door. For letting us in. For—" Her voice caught. "For giving my children a home, a father, a future." "You gave me the same things." He turned to face her. "I was dead, Clara, walking around breathing but dead. You brought me back." "We brought each other back." "Then we're even." She smiled. "Not even close. But we have a lifetime to settle the score." "I like the sound of that." He kissed her. Soft and slow and full of promise. "Come on." Clara took his hand. "Let's go inside. It's cold." "Is it? I hadn't noticed." She laughed and pulled him toward the door. "Liar." "Maybe a little." They walked inside together, closed the door on the cold, on the past, on everything that had tried to break them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new days of building a life together. But tonight, they were home. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. Caleb woke to the sound of excited voices downstairs. The children were already up, barely containing themselves. Clara stirred beside him. "What time is it?" "Early, but try telling them that." She laughed sleepily. "Christmas morning. Nothing stops Christmas morning." They dressed quickly and headed downstairs. The children sat in a tight cluster near the fireplace, where a small tree stood decorated with ribbons and berries. "Finally," Sam jumped up. "We've been waiting forever." "It's been 20 minutes, Rosie said dryly. But even she was smiling. Violet ran to Caleb and grabbed his hand. "Papa, come see, there's presents." "Papa." She said it so naturally now, like it had always been true. Caleb let her pull him to the tree. Simple gifts lay beneath it. Things he'd carved himself during the long nights. Things Clara had sewn in secret moments. "Can we open them?" Sam was practically vibrating. "Please." Clara sat down beside the tree. "Go ahead." The next hour was chaos. Wrapping paper flew. Exclamations of delight filled the room. Sam received a wooden rifle that Caleb had carved. Rosie got a journal and pen for her thoughts. Violet clutched a new dress for Buttercup made by Clara from scraps of her own fabric. "These are perfect," Rosie whispered, running her fingers over the leather journal. "How did you know?" "I pay attention," Caleb said. "Noticed you like to write. Figured you might want somewhere to put all those thoughts." Rosie's eyes welled. "Thank you, Pa." Pa. She said it easier now. More naturally. The word was becoming real. Clara had saved one gift for last. She handed Caleb a small wrapped package. "What's this?" "Open it." He unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a photograph. New. Recent. The 5 of them. Taken by Doc Holloway at the wedding. Standing together in front of the fireplace. Caleb and Clara in the center. The children arranged around them. All of them smiling. A family. Caleb's throat closed. He couldn't speak. "I thought," Clara said softly, "that maybe it could go on the mantel, beside the others." He looked up at her, at this woman who understood him so completely. "Yeah." His voice was rough. "It should go there." He crossed to the mantel, looked at Hannah and Ellie's photograph. They smiled at him, frozen in time. Forever young, forever loved. Caleb set the new photograph beside them. His past and his present side by side, not replacing, not erasing, just expanding. "There," he said. "That's where it belongs." Clara came to stand beside him. She slipped her hand into his. "They'd be happy for you," she said quietly. "Your wife and daughter. They'd want this for you." "I know." And for the first time, he truly did. "Hannah told me to keep living. I finally understand what she meant." What did she mean? Caleb looked at the 2 photographs. At the family he'd lost and the family he'd found. She meant this. Finding love again. Opening my heart again. Not just surviving, but actually living. He squeezed Clara's hand. "She knew me better than I knew myself. Knew I'd try to hide it from the world. Tried to make me promise I wouldn't." "Did you promise?" "Yeah. And I broke that promise every day for 4 years." He turned to face Clara. "Until you knocked on my door." "Caleb. You saved me, Clara. You and those children. I was drowning and you threw me a rope. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "You already do." "Papa." Violet's voice broke the moment. "Come see Sam's showing me how to shoot." "He's what?" Clara's head whipped around. Sam stood in the corner teaching Violet how to aim his new wooden rifle. "Bang, bang! You got him, Violet!" Samuel Whitmore. Clara marched toward them. "We do not play shooting games in the house. But Ma. Outside, now. Both of you." The children scrambled for their coats, arguing about who would win their pretend battle. Rosie stayed behind, still writing in her new journal. She looked up as the door slammed. Peace and quiet at last, she said. Caleb laughed. That'll last about 5 minutes. I know, Rosie smiled. But it's a good 5 minutes. Caleb sat down beside her. What are you writing? Everything. The storm. Meeting you. The wedding. She paused. The other thing. The other thing. Wade. The shooting. Does writing about it help? I think so. Doc Holloway said putting words to feelings makes them smaller, more manageable. She shrugged. He might be right. He usually is, annoyingly. Rosie almost laughed. Then her face grew serious. Yeah. Do you ever feel guilty about being happy again after losing your family? The question pierced him. He took a moment to gather his thoughts. I did. For a long time. Felt like being happy was betraying them. Like I owed it to their memory to be miserable forever. What changed? Your mama, mostly. She helped me see that happiness isn't betrayal. It's honoring what they wanted for me. He looked at the photographs on the mantel. Hannah didn't want me to suffer. She wanted me to live. Really live. I was the one who decided suffering was easier. Is it easier? In some ways. Suffering is familiar, predictable. You know what to expect. Caleb met her eyes. Happiness is scary. It means you have something to lose. Means you're vulnerable again. Rosie nodded slowly. That's how I feel. Like if I let myself be happy here, something bad will happen to take it away. Something bad might happen. That's life. But something good might happen too. You don't want to miss the good because you're too busy waiting for the bad. Rosie considered this. Then she wrote something in her journal. What did you write? Something you just said. About not missing the good. She looked up at him. I'm going to try to remember that. Good girl. The door burst open. Sam and Violet tumbled in covered in snow and arguing loudly. She cheated. Did not. Did too. Children. Clara's voice cut through the chaos. Settle down or no Christmas dinner. Instant silence. The threat of withholding food was powerful. Clara shook snow from her hair. Now who wants to help me in the kitchen? Me. Violet raised her hand. And me. Sam followed. They rushed to their mother, temporarily united in their desire to help. Rosie closed her journal and stood. I should help too. Rosie. Caleb stopped her. I'm proud of you. You know that, right? Her face softened. I know, Pa. She walked into the kitchen, leaving Caleb alone in the parlor. He looked around the room, at the scattered wrapping paper, the decorated tree, the photographs on the mantel, the sounds of his family cooking in the next room. A week ago, this house had been a tomb, silent and empty and haunted by ghosts. Now it was alive. Now it was home. Christmas dinner was loud and messy and perfect. Clara had outdone herself with the cooking. Turkey and potatoes and fresh bread and 3 kinds of pie. This is the best food I've ever eaten, Sam announced through a full mouth. Don't talk with your mouth full, Rosie said automatically. You're not the boss of me. Children. Caleb's voice was mild, but they quieted immediately. Christmas dinner. Behave. Sam swallowed dramatically. Yes, Pa. Pa. From all 3 of them now. Natural, easy, real. Clara caught Caleb's eye across the table. She smiled, and in that smile he saw everything. Love, gratitude, hope. A future stretching out before them full of promise. After dinner they gathered by the fire. Clara read aloud from a book of Christmas stories. Violet fell asleep in Caleb's lap, Buttercup clutched in her arms. Sam leaned against his mother, eyes drooping. Even Rosie looked peaceful, her journal closed for once. When the stories were done and the children were tucked in bed, Caleb and Clara sat together in the quiet. Thank you, Clara said softly, for everything. You already thanked me. I'll keep thanking you for the rest of my life. That's a lot of thank yous. You'll earn every one. She rested her head on his shoulder. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about 1 year from now, 5 years, 10. He stared into the fire. I'm thinking about watching those children grow up. Seeing Sam become a man. Walking Rosie down the aisle someday. Holding Violet's babies in my arms. That's a lot of future. It is. And a month ago, I didn't have any future at all. He turned to look at her. You gave me that, Clara. You gave me tomorrow. You gave yourself tomorrow. I just knocked on the door. Some knock. Some door. They laughed together, soft and intimate and full of love. Caleb. Yeah. Do you believe in fate, that things happen for a reason? He thought about the question. Really thought. I believe in choices, he said finally. I believe I chose to open that door. You chose to knock. We chose to let each other in. He took her hand. Maybe fate put us in the same place at the same time. But we're the ones who decided to stay. Clara squeezed his fingers. I like that. Fate and choice working together. Sounds about right. They sat in comfortable silence as the fire burned low. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and gentle. The house settled around them, warm and safe. We should sleep, Clara murmured. We should. Neither moved. 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. They stayed there holding hands, watching the embers glow. 2 broken people who'd found each other in a storm. 2 empty hearts made full again. A rancher who'd forgotten how to live, and a widow who'd refused to stop fighting. They'd knocked on each other's doors, taken the risk, chosen hope over fear. And now, on this Christmas night, surrounded by sleeping children and the ghosts of those they'd loved and lost, they were finally home. Not because they'd found a place, but because they'd found each other. Caleb Mercer looked at his wife at the photographs on the mantel at the life he'd been given a second chance to live. And he made a promise. Not to God, not to Hannah, not even to Clara, to himself. He would not waste this gift, would not hide from happiness, would not let fear steal another moment of the time he'd been given. He would live, really live, the way Hannah had wanted, the way his children deserved, the way Clara had shown him was possible. Outside, the snow fell soft and steady, covering the Wyoming territory in a blanket of white. Inside, a family slept peacefully, safe and warm and together. And Caleb Mercer, who had opened his door to a stranger on a winter night, finally understood what it meant to come home.